You're listening to the N2K Space Network.
And now, a word from our sponsor, ThreatLocker. Keeping your system secure shouldn't mean constantly reacting to threats. ThreatLocker helps you take a different approach by giving you full control over what software can run in your environment. If it's not approved, it doesn't run. Simple as that. It's a way to stop ransomware and other attacks before they start, without adding extra complexity to your day. See how ThreatLocker can help you lock down your environment at www.threatlocker.com.
Today is June 24th, 2025. I'm Maria Varmazes, and this is T-Minus.
T-minus 20 seconds to LOS egress. Go for deploy. Roger, roll.
ESA's Biomass satellite releases its first images.
4.
5 UK public service projects to receive funding for satellite imagery data from UKSA.
3.
NATO unveils its commercial space policy.
2.
iSpace Japan says a faulty laser rangefinder is to blame for Mission 2's hard lunar landing.
1.
SpaceX Transporter 14 rideshare launches with 70 payloads on board.
0.
And in the second half of the show, we have my chat with Stefan Powell, who is the CEO and CTO at Dawn Aerospace. We discuss their exponential growth and talk about Oklahoma's purchase of their spaceplane. Thanks for joining me on this Tuesday. It was a big day for so many space companies around the world yesterday with the launch of the SpaceX Transporter 14 rideshare at 2:25 p.m. Pacific time yesterday. It had 70 payloads aboard. And while we could not possibly cover all of what was aboard, we'd be here a while and we're not that kind of podcast, we wanted to check in with a few of the missions that we have been highlighting. It's a good start when you hear separation confirmed. That means your payload is deployed in space and is on its way to its spot on orbit where it can soon begin its work. 2 missions that we've been keeping a close eye on both hit the separation confirmed milestone yesterday, and they would be Space Forge's Forge Star 1, which is the UK's first in-space manufacturing satellite, and Starfish Space's Otterpup 2, whose mission is to dock with another satellite in low Earth orbit. We will keep an eye on these and other groundbreaking missions as they go on their way, hopefully to a full mission success. And though the Transporter 14 launch was just yesterday, some of the missions have already come to a conclusion. The exploration company of Germany, which had a re-entry capsule for its test flight aboard Transporter 14, said their mission was a partial success, parentheses, partial failure, their parentheses, not mine. According to the company, the mission possible capsule was launched successfully, powered the payloads nominally in orbit, stabilized itself after separation with the launcher, re-entered and re-established communication after blackout, but it encountered an issue afterwards based on their current best knowledge, and they lost communication a few minutes before splashdown. And they say they are still investigating the root causes and will share more information soon. And we wish them all the best. Moving on now, iSpace Japan has concluded their postmortem for their Hakuto R Resilience mission to lunar lander and released their root cause analysis of their hard landing on the moon. They found an anomaly in the laser rangefinder, and having reviewed their assembly, manufacturing, and testing data and found no issues there, it seems the laser rangefinder problem was most likely due to deterioration of performance that was lower than expected. To remediate this issue, iSpace says it is launching an external review task force, including third-party experts, and working more closely in the future with JAXA to further improve their technical capabilities. The company says that they do not anticipate that these findings will impact their upcoming lunar missions 3 or 4, which are planned for 2027. It's been in the works for a little while, and today NATO unveiled their official commercial space strategy at its annual summit in The Hague, the Netherlands. According to the document, the NATO commercial space strategy, quote, aims to strengthen the alliance's relationship with commercial space partners and improve its ability to leverage the growing array of commercial space services to meet and inform NATO operational and defense planning requirements in times of peace, crisis, and conflict. The strategy will support the implementation of NATO's overarching space policy by setting out clear priorities to enable improvements in cooperation with the commercial space sector in order to create increased complementary capabilities, capacities, and resiliency for the alliance. And those priorities include leveraging the use of commercial solutions, ensuring continuous access to space and space services, and enhancing coherence, specifically as it pertains to commercial providers working with NATO, as well as NATO allies obtaining space capabilities that are standardized and interoperable. It's a 3-page document, so not too much, and it's pretty high level, so it is definitely worth a look. Check out the whole thing in our show notes, which is over at space.n2k.com. There are 5 new UK-based projects that are backed by £2.5 million in UK Space Agency funding via ESA's Incubed 2, and they all aim to harness satellite data to enhance public services. And here's a brief rundown of each of them. There is Core of Nottingham, which is an AI-driven radar monitoring to detect micro-movements in infrastructure. There is Thicket of Glasgow, and in this case, AAC Clyde Space is providing satellite-enabled biodiversity mapping to optimize land management and ensure that farmers leverage government sustainability schemes. GHG Sat UK of London will be monitoring real-time methane and GHG to enable precise emissions tracing to industrial sources, bolstering regulatory oversight and climate defense capabilities. And then there's Phantom of Guildford, where Earth Eye is delivering environmental analytics to the Rural Payments Agency to enhance land use monitoring and policy enforcement. There's the EO4 Biodiversity of Oxfordshire, where HR Wallingford is using Earth observation to track habitat changes over time, supporting biodiversity safeguards and regulatory compliance. And all of these initiatives demonstrate how satellite-backed AI systems are integrating into cybersecurity-aware public infrastructure, enabling data integrity, environmental safeguarding, emissions accountability, and, most importantly, proactive risk management at scale. A mere 2 months post-launch, ESA's Biomass mission has released its first radar images, which are nothing short of spectacular, revealing forests, deserts, glaciers, and volcanic terrain with vivid false color detail, all revealed at the Living Planet Symposium. Now, the Biomass mission employs a pioneering P-band synthetic aperture radar and a 12-meter deployable mesh reflector to penetrate dense forest canopies and directly map woody biomass, offering 3D volumetric insights that exceed current optical or L-band radar methods. Commissioning of Biomass continues, but early data already demonstrate the satellite's potential to transform forest carbon stock assessments and enhance climate monitoring. And we will have a link in our show notes for you to check those gorgeous images out. And that is it for today's Intel Briefing. As always, we have a lot of reading for you in our show notes, which are in your podcast app or over on our website, which you can find at space.n2k.com. Hey, T-Minus crew, if you are just joining us, be sure to follow T-Minus Space Daily in your favorite podcast app. And also do us a favor, share the intel with your friends and coworkers. A growing audience is the most important thing for us, and we would love your help as part of the T-Minus crew. So if you find T-Minus useful, please share so other professionals like you can find the show. Thank you so much for all your support. It means a lot to me and all of us here at T-Minus.
Hey everybody, Dave here. I've talked about Delete Me before, and I'm still using it because it still works. It's been a few months now, and I'm just as impressed today as I was when I signed up. Delete Me keeps finding and removing my personal information from data broker sites, and they keep me updated with detailed reports, so I know exactly what's been taken down. I'm genuinely relieved knowing my privacy isn't something I have to worry about every day. The Delete Me team handles everything. It's the set it and forget it peace of mind. And it's not just for individuals. Delete Me also offers solutions for businesses, helping companies protect their employees' personal information and reduce exposure to social engineering and phishing threats. And right now, our listeners get a special deal, 20% off your Delete Me plan. Just go to joindeleteme.com/N2K and use promo code N2K at checkout. That's joindeleteme.com/N2K, code N2K.
Next up, I speak with Stefan Powell, CEO and CTO at Dawn Aerospace, about their exponential growth and Oklahoma's purchase of their spaceplane.
There's really strong leadership, and there's a really solid understanding of the value of space. Jim Bridenstine, he's a former NASA administrator, of course. He's represented Oklahoma at the national level in the House of Representatives. So clearly there's a very good understanding at the top and senior positions of just how valuable space is for everyone. There is a lot of aerospace going on, just no actual space access. The Oklahoma University has a lot going on with atmospheric science, expertise in drones. There's, lots going on in semiconductor industry, especially in Texas and northern Texas. That's quite close to Oklahoma. They're interested in microgravity experimentation. There's a robust aerospace industry since just about forever in Kansas. So that there is demand and expertise in this area. And that combined with a piece of infrastructure that's actually left over from the space shuttle days. The spaceport at Burns Platte was one of the emergency landing areas for the space shuttle. So there's this fantastic capability. There's this big need, an actual a vehicle actually flying to space is kind of the last link in the chain to really extract value out of this and make it happen. So I'm very stoked that Dawn Aerospace can be the one to, be that last link in the chain, if you like.
You mentioned a bit about sort of the industries that would be very interested in accessing, LEO with your services. Tell me a bit about, the customers that you are working with.
Yeah, so the customers that we're working with are interested in suborbital microgravity primarily. So semiconductor industry is one that I mentioned. The whole semiconductor industry, essentially growing a big silicon crystal, cutting it up, and then etching a chip onto that, and that chip ending up in your iPhone or whatever. That whole process, the yield of that process, the efficiency of that process is entirely dependent on the quality of the input material, the quality of that silicon wafer, the crystal quality of that wafer. So we actually know from a bunch of science that's been done on ISS that crystals grow much better in microgravity because there's less convection currents and less things disturbing that crystal growth. So you get a much more pure crystal. So that's really important because that basically means that the chips you get are going to be higher quality, they're going to be higher yield. If you look at Intel chips, how you can buy an i3 or an i5 or an i7 or an i9, and they're all the price difference between an i9 is huge compared to an i3. They're actually the identical chip. The only difference is that an i9 had fewer errors in it. There's more of the chip is active because it's less broken. So if you just start the entire chip manufacturing process for an Intel chip with a perfect silicon wafer, the chance that you get i9 chip, all of your chips are i9s, is much, much higher. So, it's incredibly valuable for them if they have a higher quality crystal going in the start of the process. So, so semiconductor industry in general is extremely interested in how microgravity can result in better crystals, this ingot being a better crystal, and therefore higher yields coming out the end.
Makes a lot of sense.
The thing that we're really excited about is that potentially you don't even have to go to orbit to grow these crystals. You can actually just grow what's called a seed crystal, where you only need a few minutes of microgravity to just grow the start of the crystal perfectly. And then with that perfect seed crystal, you can now grow a perfect crystal off that terrestrially on Earth.
That is a fascinating prospect. And I feel like that also dovetails a little bit into something that I talking to Team Oklahoma about you all working together, was the cadence of launch that you all offer. And that sounds like a massive differentiator. I know I remember vaguely 2 years ago when we last spoke that was also something you had mentioned. Can you speak a bit to the cadence? Because it is quite amazing.
Yeah, so like we can even go back to that exact example, right? Like, let's say I'm a semiconductor. I'm trying to figure out how microgravity is going to improve my semiconductor processes. I want to run experiments in microgravity. If I want to get something onto the station on the ISS and to figure out, do these changes improve the process or not? That cycle of getting something up there, running the test, getting it back, analyzing, did it improve it or not? That's years currently, like 2 to 3 if you're doing well. With flying suborbitally, you can potentially do that in like days. You can fly, you can get the thing back, you can analyze it. The analysis takes a couple of days. But talking to industry, it looks like you're going to shrink that design, test, evaluate cycle from literal years down to days. I mean, like it's a 1,000 times increase in the velocity of science. Like that's just, it's obviously just a complete game changer for them.
I was going to say, we don't often get leaps like that. So that one sort of speaks for itself for how huge that is. So yeah, not a small deal. That's,
exactly. Like we should recognize that orbital microgravity is going to be much higher quality, much longer duration. You can do much more with it. So I'm not trying to say suborbital microgravity is going to completely replace orbital, but it's very complementary. In the sense of we don't actually know exactly how to use orbital microgravity effectively yet, but we can probably understand at least the first 40, maybe 80% of the problem in suborbital microgravity. We can narrow the design space from 1,000 parameters down to the 5 that we just can't evaluate properly in suborbital microgravity because we don't have enough time. And that massively reduces the problem of understanding how to use orbital microgravity properly. And there's probably some processes that actually just don't need to go to orbit. So in some sort of cases, we may be able to actually get the value of space without going to orbit altogether.
Can you tell me a little bit about some of the other partnerships that you've been working on?
Yes, yeah. One of the advantages of actually not being a US company is that it is actually easier to serve the rest of the world. So yes, we're forging partnerships in Japan as well. We have agreements with ANATC, which was the company that sorted out all the agreements for getting Virgin Orbit to launch out of Japan. Now that launch never actually happened, unfortunately, for obvious reasons. But yeah, they understand the Japanese market really, really well. We're forging other relationships elsewhere in the world. We've recently opened up a French office as well. Key market there for us too. Europe remains a stronghold for our in-space propulsion business. We continue to sell pretty well into Southeast Asia in general. So yeah, certainly a thriving global business.
Fantastic.
I think the real significance of what we're doing here is kind of been something that we've only really just recently figured out. We've always known and always talked about the Aurora being special for 3 reasons. There's a technology reason. The vehicle, obviously. We want highly scalable operations. You want to be able to fly multiple times a day, thousands of times per aircraft. And that means that you need a reusable aircraft. And because you want a highly reusable aircraft, you need to have a highly reliable aircraft. And so that really necessitates a ton of early decision making that makes the vehicle literally hundreds of times more reliable than a traditional rocket. That's what's really pushed us towards an aircraft, essentially. It's an aircraft with the performance of a rocket, not a rocket with wings. And then there's the infrastructure side, which is, with Oklahoma, it's a fully licensed spaceport. A lot of the interest that we're fielding right now are actually people that or organizations that don't actually have a spaceport yet. It's really an airport, which is just in a somewhat rural area. But because this vehicle is so much more accessible, it's so much safer, it's certifiable as an aircraft in lots of cases, it's really bringing space capability to people that wouldn't have traditionally even been able to consider this. So it's really, it's opening this up a lot. And for us, it's really like, we don't want to be building launch pads. Everyone talks about how hard it is to build a launch pad. The launch pad is like more expensive than the rocket. So like
Yeah.
this is so key to scalability that we can access these, not just dozens spaceports across the US, but like literally hundreds, if not thousands of airports that could support our vehicle. And then the third bit being regulation. That in New Zealand, we fly as an aircraft, we integrate with other airspace users. We really want to be able to bring this model as much as we can to the States as well, because, just the amount of congestion in the airspace, this is an increasing topic, especially around spaceports. There's as many airline flights in about 65 minutes as there are space flights have ever been. So, clearly there's a much more scalable model here of many, many airspace users working together. If we really want to be doing a lot more space flight, we should be doing it as according to the airline model so that we can all play together. That's really important. Now, the fourth bit that we've really realized is that we actually need to change the business model of space. Like right now, if you go to market, you want to get to space, like you can really only buy a service. The people who have the capability will only sell you the service. They won't sell you the factory to build the rocket, the whatever, they won't give you that capability themselves. That really limits how the ecosystem can grow, because, a SpaceX or a ULA or a Rocket Lab, they're probably only going to operate from like a select few places. In the airline model, Boeing will sell a plane to, not quite everyone, but just about everyone, which means, Thai Airways can buy a plane and service their Thai market. They understand Thailand, the local government, the local people, the local needs way better than Boeing ever could. So we want to do the same, right? We want to provide the vehicle within reason to other operators who understand their local governments and their local needs, and they can build their own space ecosystem. And that means we'll serve into an ever-growing ecosystem that's way bigger than we ever could have served, by ourselves.
We'll be right back.
Did you know Active Directory is targeted in 9 out of 10 cyber attacks? Once attackers get in, they can take control of your entire network. That's why Sempris created Purple Night, the free security assessment tool that scans your Active Directory for hundreds of vulnerabilities and shows you how to fix them. Join thousands of IT pros using Purple Night to stay ahead of threats. Download it now at sempris.com/purple-night. That's sempris.com/purple-night.
Welcome back. Now, yesterday was the big reveal of the first images from the Vera Rubin Observatory, and I did spend a bit of time talking about its fantastic eye on the southern night sky, and I urged you to check out the images. So, did you? If you didn't, that's okay. I'm not mad, I'm just a bit disappointed. And I'm here to drop a URL for you. Here it is, skyviewer.app. It features images from the Rubin Observatory in high definition, and you can pan around and zoom in to your heart's content. You can poke around the image on your own or take a guided tour, which I highly recommend. They did a really nice job with it. It'll show off spiral galaxies, edge-on views, galaxy clusters, and even in one case, 3 galaxies merging into one. It is a cosmic treasure chest indeed. And remember that just about every colored dot you see is not a star, but a galaxy. And many of the objects observed don't even have any labels of any kind yet because they haven't yet been studied. There is so much out there to learn. And really, Ruben is just getting started. So yeah, here's that URL again, skyviewer.app. Definitely check it out. That's it for T-Minus for June 24th, 2025, brought to you by N2K Cyberwire. For additional resources from today's report, check out our show notes at space.n2k.com. We're privileged that N2K and podcasts like T-Minus are part of the daily routine of many of the most influential leaders and operators in the public and private sector, from the Fortune 500 to many of the world's preeminent intelligence and law enforcement agencies. N2K's senior producer is Alice Caruth. Our producer is Liz Stokes. We are mixed by Elliot Peltzman and Trey Hester, with original music by Elliot Peltzman. Our executive producer is Jennifer Iben. Peter Kilpie is our publisher, and I am your host, Maria Varmazes. Thanks for listening. We'll see you tomorrow.
T-Minus.
And now a word from our sponsor, SpyCloud. Identity is the new battleground, and attackers are exploiting stolen identities to infiltrate your organization. Traditional defenses can't keep up. SpyCloud's holistic identity threat protection helps security teams uncover and automatically remediate hidden exposures across your users, from breaches, malware, and phishing to neutralize identity-based threats like account takeover, fraud, and ransomware. Don't let invisible threats compromise your business. Get your free corporate darknet exposure report at spycloud.com/cyberwire and see what attackers already know. That's spycloud.com/cyberwire.